and welcome to our Worried About Nothing podcast. Today we thought we'd talk about temptation and selling or not selling your soul to the devil. My name's Kim.
I'm Danielle.
And I'm Katya.
Yay! And welcome. I was so happy I got through that. This was Katya's suggestion today for topic, and I feel that it's very relevant and pertinent for everything that's going on these days. So it should be an interesting conversation. Says me just jinxing it madly from the outside. Complete silence for 45 minutes.
Well, I had the jacket story this week. So it's been really cold for a while here. Now we're back to warms. And then I'm realizing that I don't really have a proper jacket. I need a size bigger so I can put some warm layers underneath. And then I was going and searching for a nice jacket. So I looked at this Canadian company called Nobis. And then I was very excited. I ordered one. It was too small. I returned. I said I'll get another one. And then I started researching in the company. First of all, I'm getting an order with the number 6660. And then I'm reading about it. It's like, well, because it has 0, it's a really lovely number, blah, blah, blah. You just need to be more devotional. I was like, okay, I think I'm just a little paranoid. I'm pretty sure it's just fine. And then I'm looking at the actual company. It says, are you ready to join us? Are you one of us? I'm going, what do you mean, us? And I looked at the translation, Nobis means us. And then there is a bunch of stuff coming up about pray for us and things like that. I'm becoming more suspicious. And then I'm looking at their logo. And I didn't look at the logo before. And there is this goat with the horn. So it's the triangle. I'm sitting with my open mouth. I was like, what's that? And then I'm going and reading into their guidelines, and they said, we very much support Black Lives Matter, blah, 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 be one of us. At that point, I went and wrote to them, please cancel my order.
Oh, wow.
So it was just so funny, but it was all this temptation because I found it on sale and everything. I was like, well, that's a good warm jacket. It's supposed to be to -30. They all talk about design and style. They compare it to Canada Goose because it's also a Canadian producer and all of that, but no one mentions the logo. And I try to go and research and find something. There's nothing about it, but what I've seen was enough. I don't need to listen to anyone. But it was very tempting, I must admit, because there was a pretty good, you pay half of the price, whatever it was. So it was very, very tempting. And I've seen some other stories like this, but this one was a funny one. Well, I don't know if it's funny, but definitely made me go, oh, no, I'm not one of you. No. I do not sell my soul.
Wow, that's interesting, though, that it's fairly subtle. You know, if somebody hadn't researched into it or looked into it, they'd have just gone, oh, well, yeah, it's just horns on the logo. Don't think anything of it. One of us, oh, that's nice. Part of a community, But wow, that just shows how insidious it can be. How people can be hooked in so easily. Like you say, it's a great deal. It's half off. It's brilliant. Yeah, I'll be one of you, kind of thing.
Oh, I have so many things I could say about this. It's something that aggravates me greatly because, everyone uses Amazon and stuff, and you kind of know how huge Amazon is as a company, and they did a good job of shutting down Parler off of their web services. And I haven't used Amazon in a long time. I really, really try to avoid it. And everyone's like, 2-day shipping though. It's so convenient. They have everything, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, you know what you're doing with your money, right? I've just always been a very big vote with your dollars person. So I've always bought my groceries organic, and people are like, don't you know it's so much more expensive than regular groceries? And I was like, I don't care. And no, I don't, because I've literally always bought organic. I don't know any different. So I don't even know what I pay for food. I'm lucky enough to the point where I don't really have to worry about it. I go to the grocery store, I pick up whatever I want. Am I sometimes surprised at the amount that rings up at the cash register? Yes. And I'm like, whoa, but I don't really have to worry about it. So that's one of those things that I kind of put to God. I was like, I really think is important to be doing. And I had a teacher who drilled home in me that the money you spend on buying organic is money that you're going to save on hospital bills and medications down the road. So just do it now in those small amounts versus having to pay and also not be healthy later on. And that being said, I don't always eat organic. I'm living home with my parents now. My mom cooks a meal, I'm going to want to eat with them. So I don't know if that falls into the temptation categories. Maybe it's too tempting. It's so easy to just eat that meal that she prepared for the house instead of sticking to my organic, grass-fed diet and not eating with them.
But I think that's the whole thing about temptation, is that it gives you the easy option. So like you say, either it's buying off Amazon or one of the big corporates, or buying something online that's easy to buy because it's half price and it's all set up for you and it's just so straightforward, or all of those little offers. Because people often feel that like selling your soul to the devil, like we said as part of the title, is the big things. It's the kind of, I'll sell my soul to the devil. It'll be a huge, great big event that I'll be hugely aware of kind of thing. But it happens in the tiny little everyday things. So it can happen so gradually. Because as you were speaking, both of you, I remember, I don't know if I've spoken about this in one of our podcasts, but I just remember an experience I had when Trump was in London. And his energy, we were just kind of communing, we were just hanging out. And it was an incredibly beautiful experience. And I had the experience of seeing what he is up against every day, in that I had an experience of temptation where some entity came to me and basically offered me the world. They offered me everything that I, with my mind, thought that I would have wanted in life. And it was just laid out in front of me so I could see it so clearly. And it was beautiful, and it was just a gorgeous, really colorful, bright life. Everything was so easy, and all I had to do was say yes to it. And I would have had this amazing life. Everything went so smoothly. I had everything that I wanted, great friends, money, health, success, all of these things. And I knew that all I had to do was say yes to it, and I would have had it. It would have been that easy. And I said no, because it felt very off to me. But I could see why people would say yes to it, because you're basically being offered everything you feel that you've ever wanted. And it's so easy. Temptation is so easy. And it was just a little thing. It was just, looking at it then, it was all I have to do is say yes, and I'll get everything. I'll get all this stuff. It's that easy. It's just a little yes. What does that matter? It doesn't matter. But as soon as I said no, then I knew what it was. Because at the time it was offered to me, it was like, well, why would I not say yes? I mean, look at it. It's so colorful. It's so beautiful. It's so easy. It's so amazing. But there was something in me that knew that it was wrong. There was something off about it. And when I said no, suddenly another life was shown to me. It was kind of, everything was dark and difficult. It was uphill. It was a struggle. I'd have to fight for things. But I knew that was more realistic. And I knew that it was being twisted. So when I said no, and then I saw that second vision, I just said, that's not true either. And that disappeared as well. But I think people like to take the easy route, because it's like, well, why not? Just say yes. Yes, I'll get that promotion. Yes, I'll get that money. Yes, I'll get the whatever it is. And every time they say yes, they're selling their soul to the devil. It might be in increments, incrementally, but it's basically anything that's not your truth is a lie, and it's selling some aspect of yourself as an exchange. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I can see it's really easy, but sticking to your principles, sticking to what you know is true, is hard often. And you might not get all the kind of the glory and the fluff on top of it, but it feels so much more true to me, so much more authentic. And sorry to take it down so seriously. We were talking about things that are a bit amusing, but
no, it is a serious topic, though. When we're talking about selling your soul to the devil in these incremental ways. And this is another area for me where I have that perfectionist tendency pick up. And I really actually think that this is part of where it comes from for me, because I'm like, if I make the wrong decision, am I selling my soul in these small ways? But then it gets me into that analysis paralysis that people talk about, where I can't make a decision. It's like, go back to the orange conversation we had in the other podcast. You're standing in the grocery, feel which orange is the correct orange to get for you. And then I get it's like almost immediate fear that I'm going to make the wrong decision, that I can't pick out an orange, which is the right orange for me. So then it's easier to just say, okay, I'm just going to grab this one, because I'm spending so much energy on like figuring out whether or not it's the right one when I still have to eat. So I guess either of you jump in if you have advice for people who also do this.
Well, I feel that for me, with my experience, the temptation experience, because it very much was kind of harken back to, the temptation of the Christ, when you're offered everything that your heart desires, but you know that to do that, to take that, means shunning the difficult decision that you know lies ahead. And for me, when I had that temptation moment, my head said, yeah, do it. It's so easy. Look how amazing it is. Oh my God, you'll get everything you've ever wanted. But my heart and my soul were the ones that said no, because they looked at this temptation, they looked at this image that is just an image that's presented to us every day, in the movies, in songs, mass media, all of this presents this image. So it's very familiar to some extent, except for the fact that this image was personalized to me. But yeah, so the mind went, oh yeah, look, you can have the classic American dream lifestyle. Not that it's American, but you know what I mean? It's kind of the American dream can sometimes be presented as you get everything you want kind of thing. But my heart and soul were going, but it's not true. It's not true. Life is not like that. Life is authentic. And I guess the way to decide is to go with what feels true as opposed to what you think is true. So instead of looking at, say, the orange and going, okay, so that orange, the rind is darker, it's a nice uniform orange color, or it's slightly bigger, and so therefore it'll be cheaper, it'll work out cheaper if the price is the same for every orange kind of thing. It's just going, no, what does my heart want to eat? What does my soul feel is true? Because then the thought's taken out of the way. So there's no thinking. So there's no kind of struggle or suffering around it. You just kind of go, well, my heart's pointing at that one, so I'm taking that one.
Yeah, I generally didn't have an experience of that, but I did have one yesterday when I went to go buy a compass for my class, because yet another thing they didn't put on the syllabus that would also be helpful to have. So this story, my trip to Michael's, is another story I'll share with you guys another time, and it was very bizarre. But yeah, so I was in there and I was looking at the compasses, and I actually did feel, I was like, okay, maybe like this compass, but I still don't feel like I have enough experiences. There's no way of me knowing that this compass is better than the other compasses, that I made the right choice. That's the biggest thing, is it's hard for me to have validation of when I feel like I have followed these things, that it was actually the proper choice to make. You know what I mean?
See, when I go to the grocery store, I already feel that we have something built inside of us. So when you grab something and if there's something wrong with it, you'll just put it back and take something else. So I don't really think, I just look and just go where it feels right, pick it up and take it. So I don't know if that's the right approach, but it feels okay to me. I mean, I've been mostly shopping online just because I get it from the local organic company. So they try to source it locally, not everything. Most of the items, especially during the summer. So it's easy for me. They just bring it in a box by the door, and then I just take the old box out. So it's nice and easy. I haven't been going to the grocery shops. I don't know when was the last time I went to the grocery shop. It's been a while, although my husband buys some little things. But most of the stuff, I think I mentioned it in the previous podcast, we just go to the farm and whatever we're given, we take it.
Yeah, well, that's great though, getting it straight, fresh from the source.
Well, it's frozen. It's frozen. Right. So yeah, it's still fresh.
But it's direct, you're cutting out the middleman, yeah. I guess it depends what the thing is. So if it's a compass, say, or was it a compass you said you needed to buy, you need to get one that meets specific requirements. So some do something, some might not have all the requirements. So I guess there's a bit of thinking that would need to be involved.
I don't know anything about different compasses, so I was just looking to buy one. So I didn't have any technical requirements that I was aware of. But some of them hold pencils. The other ones are just leads. So the one that I ended up feeling like I should buy just holds a lead. And then I'm sitting with it yesterday and I'm like, well, this is kind of dumb, because if I wanted to use a pen with colored ink or one of my watercolored pencils, I was like, I can't really use it with this. But I was like, still felt like this was the one I was supposed to get. But that's, it's the just not knowing. And that's a big theme for me. It's been coming up a lot. So I'd be really happy if I could clear this, clear a chunk of it. I'm like, oh, this would be nice. Then I don't have to live my life in I have no idea what I'm supposed to do in any single moment. Do I go to bed now, or do I go to bed in a minute? I don't know.
For me, it's always I should have been in bed half an hour ago. It's at 10 o'clock. Oh, I should be going to bed early, and now it's 10:30. What am I doing? Go to bed.
It brings up another point that I sway to sometimes, though, because then we have this overarching thing of like everything's light. You can't really make a mistake. That's gonna, I don't know, I guess like damn you for eternity or something, right? Because we know with the teachings that everything in duality will flip to its other, right? So I don't know. I just feel like there's this worry, this heavy, heavy worry. And it's like, I know life's not supposed to be lived that way. But when I look at it through this, like life through the scope of doing what's true for me, and then I guess it's just still a little difficult for me to not try to use my mind to do that. And it just makes things very miserable. So sometimes I default to being like, everything's light anyway. God loves me. I need to eat something.
That's a good approach.
Like last night, I was working so hard on this thing. My parents are like, okay, we're getting dinner from the diner. And I said, we're getting this. I was like, I'll have the same, nice and easy. I don't have to stop what I'm doing, cook myself a meal, figure out what I'm going to eat, all that.
But it is though, because it's just another choice, because you can choose A or B or A, B, C, D, E, F, G or whatever, but it's just a choice in the moment. And it's about the suffering that comes with it, so anything you do that you're not going to be traumatized by or suffer greatly or second guess yourself or anything, it's just a choice, and it's no right or wrong about it. So eat the orange or eat the chocolate and, live with the consequences of either, kind of thing. I feel for me, it's kind of, for me, it's just, I don't know, maybe I'm oversimplifying things, but at the moment for me, it just feels like, well, I'm not going to beat myself up about stuff consciously. I may still be doing it very, very well subconsciously. I probably am, but it's just a choice, and I'm not going to suffer about it, because if I make a choice and it's, in inverted commas, the wrong choice, it's done. There's nothing I can do about it. It's kind of, I can't reverse the time and go, okay, I'll take the other choice, So it's kind of, well, why traumatize over it or suffer over it? It's done. And the next time a similar opportunity comes up or choice, I can go, well, I learned from the last time.
Or I never learned.
Or I never learned. So I'll keep sticking my finger into the fire. Owie.
The chocolate is so tempting. You know that a lot of food actually has devil into it. We used to buy chocolate cake and it was so good, and it's called something.
Devil's food cake. There is a devil's food cake.
Yeah, that's the one. And there was something else. And then I'm looking at wow. And I understand why, because it's so tempting. It's really delicious. I didn't know about it. But now that I pay attention to the things, now I understand why. I wanted to make it. And once I read the title, I was like, no, I'm not making it.
Yeah.
And you know what I also wanted to say about the discussion you had about the experience, Kim, that you had? So I was also thinking that if you were to choose the easy path, then there would be nothing for soul to do. It wouldn't grow. It wouldn't experience all these challenges. So your soul wanted the growth.
Yeah. And you kind of, exactly, absolutely. And also with the easy choice, you wouldn't have a soul because you'd have exchanged it for that life, so you'd have gone through it feeling very dissatisfied, very out of body, not enjoying that kind of life. You'd always want more because there's always going to be something missing, because you're basically giving up your soul for it. And also down the line, as you go down the line, there's more and more payment to be made. So using the example of all this pedophilia and child sacrifice and all of that that's going on in the world that not everyone knows about. But, the first step, and I saw this really clearly when I was offered it, the first step is this wonderful life. So people are selling their souls for this wonderful life with more payment to come, which they're agreeing to by the first yes. And then when they're hooked in, they just have to, because the next step is you've sold your soul. You have to go down this road. You have to continue down this road. And it's always, it's like with anything, when anyone's trying to sell you something, they'll hook you in with something nice, like half price offer or have a freebie or 2 for 1 or something like that. And then once you've signed that contract or signed whatever it is away, big chunk of money or your soul or the next 5 years of your life or whatever it is, you're tied in, and it gets more and more in their favor, not yours. So it always starts with a nice gentle, oh yeah, this is great, or the nice pleasant, this is going to be wonderful for you. And once you're down that slippery, it's like a slippery slope, literally. So you start off sliding, and then there's no way you can stop yourself because you get faster and faster in the acceleration. So yeah, absolutely.
I also wanted to say about the jacket, when I looked at the owner, he used to actually work for Canada Goose as a vice president. When I looked at him, he just looked so evil. I just couldn't look at his eyes. So I was like, wow, this is a scary experience.
Yes. Oh no, yeah, you could be well done for avoiding that one, definitely. Yeah, but I'm finding that as well. I'm noticing that with people, you can really see the devil behind their eyes more and more clearly these days. So somebody can be all, looking lovely, made up really nicely, hair and all of that, but you just see the devil face or the evil there. So no makeup can cover that. No kind of, good skincare can cover that. But yeah, it's just shining out more and more clearly now. So I know what you mean with that. You can definitely see it in people.
Well, it's the whole dark coming to light thing too, right? Everything's going to be exposed in these times. So I guess the light's just shining more brightly so that we can see it more clearly.
Yeah.
When you were talking before, though, it was making me think of contracts and how we have to sign terms and conditions for like everything, and how they're like 1,000,000 pages long and just like scrolling if you're on the computer, and nobody's reading that. And then every now and then you get those emails. It's like, we've updated our terms of service, and it's like no one's reading that either. And I hate it. And the contracts to begin with, I've always had such a huge issue with this, because in college, when you write a research paper, you have to write it so that someone with an 8th grade rating level can understand it. Because that was, at the time at least, that was the average literacy in the United States. An average adult would have the ability to read at an 8th grade reading level. I'm like, why aren't our contracts written the same way then? Or why isn't it required that they're written so that the person, not someone who's illiterate, but I mean, that would be interesting. Maybe you could do it in pictures, could understand it, but like the lowest or the average lowest reading level could understand it, because we shouldn't have to sign anything that we don't understand. And I guess no one's holding a gun to our heads, right, in these situations, but it's like just to enter a website or something. It's like to get on a mailing list, you have to check these boxes. To use an app, I'm like, I just want a timer. You know what I mean? I don't know.
It's done intentionally, though. It's all intentional, so convoluted so that we don't read it. And they can slip in all sorts of stuff. A really trivial example is some vet clinics. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, but this is looking at things like this and realizing these things in my everyday life. This is why starting to find out all of those other things that people don't understand why I believe them. This is why I believe it and why it makes sense to me, because all of the stuff we do on a daily basis doesn't make any sense. These contracts that nobody reads, it doesn't make any sense. The way the pharmaceutical companies work and the fact that no doctor pushes nutrition unless they specifically went to school for it doesn't make any sense. Sorry. It's like really, really big for me, all of these things.
No, sure, I see that. No, I understand too. No, it doesn't make sense, but this is why it's all at that pivotal moment of teaching where it's crumbling, because there's only so many nonsensical things you can pile onto one kind of tiny foundation. It's like a upside down triangle before it falls, because none of it makes sense. And the more that we've accepted all this stuff that just is ludicrous, and the explanations are ludicrous, the faster people are just going to start going, hang on a second, why is this another thing that I have to do that takes up so much time and doesn't make sense? And the explanation is in Martian, it's just ridiculous. But yeah, no, absolutely. Like you say, it's kind of bringing everything to light, all of that stuff, all of the convolutions, all of the basically signing your life away. So everything is, you've agreed to this, you've signed this is your signature, this is what you've said yes to. So nobody's liable anymore, because it's like, well, you signed it, you said yes. And it's like, well, that was on page 72 of a contract to buy a toothbrush, so I didn't read that, But yeah, you've said yes to it, so you're tied in. It's another way of tying you in.
And in the UK, by law, I think you can just verbally agree to something. You don't even have to sign, and that's considered legal. And I remember when a verbal agreement was considered a contract, because I remember when I worked for a company, we agreed to something, and then the other party declined it later on when they won the big loss. So we had to go to the records, listen to it. And because it was considered a law, then they had to basically reverse everything back and take up and basically suck up the loss.
Wow. Yeah, there are definitely legally binding verbal agreements that I'm aware of, not necessarily aware of what you have to say to enter into one. But yeah, I'm aware of their existence.
It feels also at the moment, to me anyway, and I don't know if it's true for everyone, but it feels like things are shifting at the moment so much that we're doing things more work-wise anyway from love, or love is coming through somehow. We loving some aspect, or there's some aspect of service in our work. And people who have sold their soul by, going for the big salary, doing jobs they hate, or jobs that are inauthentic or in some way, lying or cheating or one of those things, it's becoming clearer as well. And those people seem to be getting more and more miserable.
Do you have an example of seeing that, or
just from conversations with, clients that come in who are talking about work, and the ones that are doing the high-powered jobs? And it's not about necessarily the high-powered aspect of it, but just the jobs that are purely for money or for greed or for some kind of manipulation of other people. They just seem very brittle. They'll talk about, because people come in, they like to talk about themselves. And so they'll come in and they'll talk about their work, or they'll complain about something or whatever it is. And those people just seem to be teetering on the edge. There's always seems to be some kind of issue or some kind of problem or some kind of difficulty or something going wrong. Whereas those that come in and talk about jobs that they're doing for love are blossoming, it just seems to me. There's more of a contentment, more of a, well, I'm doing this and I feel so much benefit or so much joy from helping others. And that feels purer as well. When I'm talking to them, there are less dense layers between me and them. There's less boundaries. There's less that they're throwing at me. There's less hiding and there's less lying to themselves, whereas those that are not doing that are going through real traumas. Some of them are CEOs of big companies or smaller companies, but there always seems to be some kind of either a very strong physical issue going on with them, or their lives are falling apart, or they're getting divorced, losing the house, losing the car, but their business is still going, kind of thing, or something like that. It just seems to be that, again, this veil that we keep speaking of that is being pulled back is just showing everything more clearly, and showing that kind of raw ambition as well. People that are doing things because they want to shine or they want to be important. It's showing that in a real naked way at the moment to me. It seems very obvious to me. And they're not succeeding because that's the wrong motivation. And it feels like the motivation these days has to be love. If it's not love, it will fail. That's how it appears to me anyway. So speaking of temptation, some of these people are doing it because of the reasons they chose to start, or the reasons that keep them going. And there is a selling them their soul aspect to it, because if what you want is all external, if you're doing it for the kudos or the gratification or the money or the people admiring you, that's also unreal. It's also brittle, and on the outside, it's not true. It's very fragile. So if that's the motivation and that's what's keeping you going, then you're building a very, very shaky house of cards out of that. And that will at some point inevitably crumble. Because that's the thing with temptation, it's taking you out of yourself, So when you're tempted, it always pulls you out from the inside to something external, something you can see, or something you desire that's in front of you or outside of you. Whereas if you're working from the inside, it's much more solid because you're on that foundation of the inner self, the inner core, or whatever you want to call it. So temptation, I think, automatically takes you away or separates you in some way, some aspect, whether it's your soul or your heart or whatever it is, but it definitely splits you because it takes you outside of yourself. And that's no way to, that you've got no foundation if you're outside of yourself,
Right. Sounds like you'd be trying to attach to the other thing and ground onto that pretty much, instead of it's the identification, I guess. On some level, it's probably whatever it is, but some sort of identification with it and saying because it's that strong I guess, I want this, versus having that neutrality that comes from being in the core and just being centered, the way you move, just the experience of being from center.
Yeah, absolutely. And the I aspect as well is the external, as you are perceived by others, or you want to be perceived by others, which makes it even more unreal. It's not even how you want to perceive yourself, it's how you want others to perceive you, and you can't control that. So that's just an insane thing to try and take control of.
I think, what was it, 2 weeks ago, I applied for a job. I know something similar. I really wanted it because, well, it seems interesting, and it felt like it was a good pay, even though it's full-time, and that's not something I wanted. I wanted to work part-time. And I haven't heard back from them. So instead of suffering or thinking, oh, they're not calling me back, I was like, I'm just trying to trust. And I know that if this is something where I'm not going to be happy, then I'm not going to go for it. Then they're not even going to call me or invite me. So just that trust that I'll get the job that will be good for me. And it's not like I'm in a situation where I have to run and get any job. So I was like, yeah, we shall see what happens. If it doesn't happen, I trust that it meant to be that way, that it's not a job for me and I won't be happy there.
That's perfect. No, that's great. What was the job?
It's working for the town as an economic development coordinator. It's basically giving away business licenses and doing some other stuff. So,
Ooh, that would be interesting. I think it would be good to have someone like you in a position like that.
nothing happens. I'm okay with that. It's just because it's also 2 minutes walk from my house.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's so nice.
I remember walking by, I was like, yeah, I wouldn't mind working here. Yeah, 2 minutes walk, I can take it.
But I think it's nothing wrong with taking a job because it's good pay. You know, you can't kind of go, oh no, it's going to pay me well, I refuse. You know, but taking it just for that reason, I feel, and I know you wouldn't be taking it just for that reason, but some people that do, it's going to cause unhappiness, because if it's a job you don't like, and if the only reason you're doing it is because it pays well, you know, that's kind of soul sucking.
I don't think they would have taken me. I think I'm pretty honest. And when I go to the interview, I say things, so they'll probably know whether or not I'm the right person for the position.
I could see you in an interview, actually. If the only reason was for the money, you'd be like, well, I can't stand the sound of the job. It sounds horrible, but it pays well, so I'll do it. Okay. They'd probably hire you on the spot. It'd be like, yep, honest person, come on in. But I wasn't kind of thinking of that example. I mean, you know, some of the big, you know, high flyers that kind of have these multi-million pound or dollar companies that's all about the money.
I had a job before working, I think Danielle would be familiar. I was working as a contract administrator, and I worked before in the office of the registrar too for the local art post-secondary institution. And it was really boring. It was mostly sitting in front of the computer and doing contracts. So I really was missing a bit of human interaction. So the fact that I would have had some human interaction here, I thought, oh, that would be great, because that was one of the aspects that made me crazy. I was so bored on the job just because it was just boring.
Yeah, it's so nice to have a human interaction, definitely. Yeah. Now I'm working at the vets. People come in all the time, whereas last year I was working for that crazy woman and it was just me on my own at home and her phoning me constantly. That was the only human interaction. But yeah, it is nice, definitely, having the day-to-day chat. And I get to see dogs all day, which is great too. So.
And especially when you have kids, and then mostly kids interactions. So I'm at the point where, I mean, I love our podcast. It's definitely a human interaction, but I do feel like I'm craving a little bit of that. And I'm at the point where before I didn't want to work. I was like, no, I don't want to work. I'm actually happy. I want to stay with the kids. And now at the point I was like, no, actually, I'm ready to go back to work. I'm missing it. There's part of me that actually wants it. So I'm sure something will happen at some point. So.
Yeah. Well, it's you. Of course, something will happen at some point, definitely. But yeah, I can imagine if all the only people you talk to in the day are kids, it would drive me crazy.
Well, we normally go out with my friend pretty much every day. So it's not like I have no one to talk to, but not a lot of, but some talks are about kids. The majority of the talks are about kids.
Yeah, so it's nice to have that balance, isn't it? Talking about other things as well. Yeah.
Temptation, desire for human interaction.
I'll tempt you with an adult. Adult conversation. But it's true though. It is insidious at the moment. And I feel that temptations are coming up so strongly. And because things are clearer and clearer, you know, you can kind of see your own temptation, what your weak points are, you know, where the temptation comes up for you. And mine definitely is still food. I need to get that sorted, because I'm seeing more clearly why I eat and when I eat and the reasons and the kind of foods I go for and all of that. But I'm still doing it. So I'm kind of eating it going, yes, it's because I'm bored, or yes, it's because I'm whatever. And it's like, no, stop the eating, and go, yes, it's because I'm bored. You know? So, yeah.
I I've had the same thing coming up for me and around food as well, and seeing it and sometimes still doing it anyway. So I'm glad I'm not alone. But yeah, it's good. It's good because I'm becoming more aware, like you said, of the why it's happening. It's like, okay, well, I just realized like I'm not hungry right now. I don't need this food, but there's some sort of stress. I'm at least noticing like there's some sort of stress that's like, hey, let's see what's in the kitchen, which is kind of a weird solution for stress. I think maybe boredom too. I don't know. There's still something there that needs to, I think, click for me to know exactly what that motivation is.
Stress is for sure, because when my kids stress me out, the first thing I'm going for is something sweet or something to feel yourself fall back into love or fall back into, that's what I think that food will provide me, right? That this aspect of unloving myself. I was like, well, if only I can have food, then I feel better. It gives me that comfort. And I regularly do the same thing. I was like, I shouldn't be. I agreed that I'll only eat one little thing of chocolate. I should not be going for the whole bar. And I was like, screw that. I'm going to eat the whole bar because I'm tired. And I know that, of course, this is all the excuses. It's just because I want to feel that comfort. And I feel like, oh, I'm tired at the end of the day. I just want some comfort, some hot tea, and the chocolate.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, yes, it's good. It's all just, I've earned it, or I haven't even earned it, but I feel like the comfort. And then I go, oh no, but I've still put on weight. Why is that?
Those few times that I stopped myself, mostly I just go for it, but few times put it away, and then I'll go and put it away. But mostly I was like, no, I'm not putting it away. I'm eating it. I know I'll put weight, well, I'm trying to lose weight. Not that I'll put weight, I'll probably stay the same weight. But I'm trying to lose a little bit by minimizing the portions. Because I looked at my driver's license, I think I was trying to count at least 6 kilograms lighter 5 years ago, because I have to get it every 5 years. I was like, no wonder none of the jackets fits. No wonder I need to go for a larger size.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Yeah. And all the excuses I might have once said to myself, like, oh, over winter, you always put on a little bit of weight. It's been so cold. You need the padding, for the warmth. Stop talking shit, honestly.
No, it's funny because that's come up for me too. Because for me, sometimes it's volume of food. It might not necessarily be the type of food, but like the amount of food. It's like, just like wanting to feel full, I guess, which my stomach used to be like a bottomless pit, and sometimes it does get that way still. So I'm like, I don't know what happens. It's just like black hole opens up in there and just wants to consume everything. Because I tell myself, I'm like, the world's in kind of a precarious state right now. I mean, price of food's going up. Maybe I'm going to need the extra weight.
One way to store it is inside yourself.
Exactly. Well, I mean, that food's perishable anyway, so that stuff doesn't have a long shelf life. So I'm going to store it inside of me as fat.
Don't want to waste it. But you hit on a good point, though, because I think that is the thing for me. Sometimes it's the feeling, wanting to feel full, because for me, that's one of the big triggers. It's if I'm having a bit of an emotional time or feeling something's moving through, let's say it's loneliness or sadness or something like that, it's a real denial thing. So it's like a, multi-layered cake. So kind of whenever I feel something, I'll eat something to pat it down, feel something else and have some food to pat it down, So it's like a 40,000 story layered cake, what's going on in there.
Oh my, that's hilarious. Here's some loneliness. Let's put a cupcake on top of that.
Smooth it out so it's nice and even. Kind of as things are coming up, it's like, oh no, the natural reaction is, oh no, get another layer on top. So I'm trying to let the come through. But then occasionally it's like, oh no, it's too much, quick, 2 layers.
Yes, yeah. No, but that brings up another good point, because Aratima always talks about 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So I think from the way that she's expressed the energies of this year are going to be, it's probably a lot of what we're going to be seeing. 2 step forward, 1 step back. So, all right. Yeah. At least we're kind of like aware of it. Yeah. Just buckle up, get ready.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of just not allowing yourself in a kind of self-indulgent way, but forgiving yourself when you see the patterns happening, and sometimes you're not changing them there and then, because sometimes when it can be really strong or something really emotional, it's you want to be able to see it, acknowledge it, change it, but sometimes it's like, well, just a little bit of chocolate might just help with this situation, you know?
And then the cake will solve it.
Exactly. Then the huge wedding cake, four-course dinner. No, I'm joking. But the first step is seeing it and acknowledging it. But it is, yeah, it's all clearer this year. So it's kind of, you can see it and you're like, oh my God, there's no excuse. There is no excuse for this. I know what I'm doing.
I'm seeing it too, whether it's boredom or whatever, I'm acknowledging it. It's like, okay, I'm bored. Especially when I do some computer work. I don't know, I get so bored. When I do computer work, it's better to be in the office, just for the simple reason that you can just bring some carrots. And because you're hungry or you're bored, all you have to eat are carrots or some cucumbers. That's what I've been doing. I was like, instead of eating chocolate, you have a carrot in the fridge. Go and have it. Or cut some cucumbers and enjoy it. That's your snack. But having that willpower to stay with it, that's the hardest.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But like you say, having the right foods around you is good, rather than, okay, I've got carrots in the fridge, but I know the shop is just across the road. I know there's chocolate in that shop.
That was the helpful thing for me living by myself, is because the food I had in the house is only what I bought. And because of the way I shopped, and I was eating a lot of meat because my naturopathic diet had me on a lot of meat. So it was expensive. So I didn't really want to buy anything outside of what I was supposed to eat. So that was really helpful. But now I'm home and there's a whole lot of food in the cabinet that I would never buy.
And it's just there looking at you.
And it's right there. And when I'm bored and I'm angry, I want to eat it.
Well, it's the same with the kids. For some reason, we have a lot more stuff than we need because they always need something. I don't know either, a little cracker or something. So they might not be the unhealthiest food, but it's just because you're constantly eating it, right? That's constantly snacking. That's what makes it worse. Mm-hmm. And then I can't kick it out because he's so constantly like, we go somewhere and then, Mom, do you have this? Do you have this? Why don't you have this for us?
You're like, it's in my belly. It's in here.
It's actually my boy told me I forgot his water. I was like, Mom, why didn't you think about me? Why did you forget my water?
So temptation. What other temptations are there? And I think natural inclinations are coming up as well, because I know that one of my natural inclination is to be fairly lazy generally. So that's definitely coming up. There are some evenings I get back from work and I'm like, nope, I'm doing nothing. I'm just going to lie on the sofa. That's my evening done, which is very enjoyable, but really should not be done all the time.
I had that too when I put kids to bed. Once I lay down, I just can't leave the bedroom. I know I have dishes to do or something to do, or I'm working on a scarf. I can show it to you. Anyway, I was like, I can just finish it by now. It's like, no, I'm tired. I'm just going to lay down here, be lazy, and then go to bed late because I've been laying down here.
Yeah, and wake up tired tomorrow because I haven't slept enough, and then the cycle repeats. Yeah,
that's exactly my cycle. So welcome to the world. We seems to be drawing in the similar cycles.
But hey, at least we can see it more clearly.
I know it really is a good thing, and I had to get over, the resistance to seeing it, because when it comes up, then it's like, oh, stole that, so that's a lot better for me, is not judging so much when I'm seeing it, because then that kind of stops the seeing of anything, right? You just go into judgment and beating yourself up about the one pattern that you actually did see. And then it's like, you kind of stop the flow of being able to see all the other patterns that are there too, and letting them kind of release. So I'm thankful that some of that judgment is gone. But this conversation has been really helpful to me, because I'd like to hear you, Kim, also say that you've been seeing yourself and these patterns come up in you, but you're not necessarily making changes about them. And it's like, okay, well, we're all doing our best. I can lay off myself because other people are having, they're not making the changes immediately either. So,
oh yeah, you're definitely not alone. Absolutely not. Oh my God, no. If I was to beat myself up of all the times, for all the times that I see it and do nothing, I would just be in a corner constantly just banging myself on the head because
welcome to my world, Katya. That's me. You have your world, and this one's mine.
But it's just you can't. I think it's yeah, you can only do what you can do, you know, and as long as we're trying to clear it, trying to see it, you know, without kind of indulging in it, you know, I think that can be one thing as well that I can sometimes do is I'll excuse myself. I'll be like, well, at least I see the pattern, at least I'm aware of it as I stuff chocolate cake into my face, you know, and it's like, well, no, you can actually stop yourself from stuffing the face, you know, it's kind of, you don't have to carry on do it going, well, it's okay, I've seen it now.
Right, but you can see the difference in that too. You know, you know when you're doing it that way, opposed to when you're doing it, and it's more like, okay, it's just kind of, this was going to happen anyway, but at least I'm seeing that it's, and sometimes it's also a choice between, you know, eating that piece of chocolate and like jumping out the window, or, you know, at least it feels that way. And it's like, I can't necessarily deal with this in this moment. That's sometimes the issue for me. It's like, I'm working right now. I have to focus on this. I don't have the time to address whatever's happening in here. So let me just, you know, kind of balance things out, make this the priority, come back to that later kind of thing.
I can't do that. See, even at work, I would go to the toilet, I would cry, come back with all the cried eyes, and then start working.
It's probably better that way. Not being able to push it down, good. It's got to get out now.
And then try to get back to work. But usually once you went through it, it's already much easier. Then
sounds like no layer cakes for you.
But I think it's just seeing it, because can you imagine just eating it unconsciously, just eating it because you feel like you want to eat it without understanding? That's already like, at least we're seeing it. We're acknowledging why we're eating it, either being bored, being unhappy, being stressed, or just not loving yourself, or whatever other reasons out there. I think that's already a huge step, just seeing it. And eventually I've noticed that many times I was like, okay, how about I step back? How about I push back? Where's my willpower? Come on, get your willpower, do it. So at least I don't do it all the time, but it comes back to me because I'm now seeing it. And the moment I see it more and more, I tell myself, no, you just have to say no.
Yeah, I'm doing more of that as well. And I think you're right. Seeing it is definitely the first big step. And not making the excuses for it and just allowing it. So even if you're kind of, this is not what I necessarily do, but for example, even if you're sitting there crying while eating chocolate cake and acknowledging why you're crying and knowing you're crying, as opposed to not crying and feeling nothing and eating the chocolate cake, it's better. You know, it's a step up. And you get a bit of salt on the chocolate cake as well.
But the thing is, it's a habit that you established for years.
Yeah.
You can't expect to get rid of the habit in one day. It took you years to build the habit, and then it will take you quite a bit of time to get rid of it. So I think you can't just dismantle it in one go. I can't anyway. Maybe some people can, but I can't. I know some people who decided to give up alcohol in one day, and they did it. Great for them. Can I do that with chocolate? Not yet.
But I think it's finding the root cause, or kind of the one that's really hooking in, you know. So with food, it's definitely one of my vices or one of my temptations. And I'm finding a lot of, you know, as the layers are coming up, I'm seeing more and more why I'm doing it and what is motivating me. But it feels like I haven't quite got down to the bottommost layers yet, you know, the ones that make it hold on. It's like, for example, I used to drink alcohol and I gave that up immediately. It was a no-brainer. It was really easy because the motivation was right and the reason for drinking no longer existed. So it was kind of like a combination of the two, not wanting to get too psychological about it, but it was starting to do Aratima's cause, you know, and she said, you know, I don't want you to drink on it because this is what it does. And I went, oh, so I don't need to do that. And then just suddenly, boom, the desire to drink just stopped. And I haven't wanted to drink since. And with food, because it's so much more ingrained, because food for me has always been the sort of, you cushion pain with food, you know, so as long as there's a bit of pain, the habit is to cushion it with food, So it's allowing that pain to come up and go, okay, it's okay. It doesn't need to be cushioned. It's all right. It can just float up. It's getting into that habit, like you say. So yeah, it might take me a time, but I'm eating more healthily than I was. So I'm not always reaching for the chocolate cake. Sometimes it's bananas, or something.
Yeah.
It's working through it and not beating yourself up about it. I think it's just, 2 steps forwards, 1 step back, 2 steps forwards. As long as you continue to take the 2 steps forwards, then, the step back is like, well, okay, but at least I'm a step more forward than I was then,
But I think it's different with food. First of all, you can't give it up. You need food.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is coming from survival. So you can't just give up all the stuff in one day. Sure, you can make more healthy choices and try to stick to them. But I think that's why it's much harder about the food.
Yeah, absolutely. It is about survival. Yeah. And I feel that at the moment, because everyone's in panic mode, there's a lot of survival energy in the air as well. Not that that's an excuse, but, I am feeling that too, but not using it as an excuse, which is good, but just being aware of it. Yeah.
Good.
I was thinking about that too, that while you were talking, Kim, I was like, yeah, we can't give up food entirely because you can give up alcohol, right? You could just say, well, I'm not drinking alcohol anymore, but we need food to survive. So at some point you're going to be eating food. It's like, well, I really kind of want to have this nice carb when I could be eating these healthier options.
Well, I guess it's seeing food for what it is. It's like the fuel that we need to survive. But instead of going, oh, I want all the fuel in the world, it's just, I just need that amount to survive. That's all I need. It's that difference of seeing it for what it is. And I've never seen food as just fuel. Some people can, like, well, I just eat because I need to eat. Whereas I'm like, oh, but food is so delicious.
You know why? That's because we have luxuries.
Yeah.
If we were to live in the countries where there are no luxuries like this, then the food would have been treated differently.
No, absolutely. Yeah. That was our conversation on temptation and selling your soul to the devil. We were talking about some of the things that still tempt us. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please click the bell icon so you get notified about our next podcasts. And we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.